looking at the Packers and their offseason outlook, um, I think it looks pretty good. You do have a couple of free agents, AJ Dillon, which I think could be a pretty easy walk, just because even when he is on the field, when he is getting that starter role away from Aaron Jones, because I believe it was this year, or was it last year, that Aaron Jones missed some time and AJ Dillon just did not look great. Wasn't
2
that
yards
impressive.
a carry, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Jonathan Owens and Darnell Savage, some safeties in there. John Runyon, I believe it's their right guard. So a couple of free agents that they might want to take a look at to re-sign. They only have $8.4 million in cap space. Look at David Bakhtiari as a pretty easy and big cut candidate. He's only played 13 games of the last 3 seasons. Releasing him would free up $20.9 million in cap space post June 1st. And then don't be surprised, because this team is so young. I mean, we're talking about the youngest offense in the league, the youngest team in the playoffs. Don't be surprised to go out and see the Packers get aggressive. Maybe they want to move up in the draft. If you release David Bakhtiari and you want to go replace him, maybe you're moving up in the draft to go take that top tackle, Joe Alt. And I know there's another one. You want to go move up in that region to go grab the top tackle. Don't be surprised if the Packers actually do that. Again, draft capital is really, really valuable. But when your team is so young and you're going to end up potentially saving up 20.9 in cap space, so you're looking around 30 million in cap, again, super young, might be looking at a trade-up scenario for the draft.
That's assuming they don't spend it all on extending Mr. Love.
Yeah, which will be... I mean, it could be this offseason, right? I mean, because next season was technically when he
if I was him, I would be getting extended this season. Because let's be honest, he's had 8 good games in his career. He put a hell of an 8 games on tape, but I would get extended quick and fast, even if it's not as big as it could be, to secure the bag, because it looks like it's for real, but
yeah,
it's only been 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, no, that's true. And even if he does get signed, I would imagine that he's not going to take a ton of cap space this season, or like this coming season, or the season after that. I believe it's probably most likely going to be more backloaded, the front loaded, just because their cap, again, it would be somewhere around 29 million ish with David Bakhtiari getting cut. But is Jordan Love getting paid $30 million a year?
Well, even if he is, they'd be smart to do an extension after his contract is up to add years to that, and then his cap hit will be super, super small. You just give him all the money up front. I think Josh Allen's cap hit has been in the mid-teens the past couple of years. So if you're smart enough and you put the money up front, not every team has a $59.5 million cap hit for their semi-decent quarterback next season like the Cowboys do. So if you're smart enough to work around it, you can.
All right, man. Chill out.
It's true. With a 59.5, that's his cap hit next season. You guys have to extend him, because you can't have that cap.
They have quite a few free agents: Gabe Davis, Tyrell Dodson, Leonard Floyd, Micah Hyde, Dane Jackson, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rappin. All those guys are either starters or right behind like second string guys who play a ton as well. So quite a few free agents, 43.7 million over the cap. Stephon Diggs, we already talked about it. Potential trade candidate would save 19 million. Von Miller, trying to get off of that contract, would save 6.7 million. Tre'Davious White is obviously superstar corner, but he is coming off an Achilles injury, and he is a $16 million cap hit. So you might want to take a look at that one on what you want to do. Rasul Douglas, who they traded for earlier in the year, is going to be a $10 million cap hit. Again, it's going to be another one where they might want to take a look at what they're going to do with that, because if they cut him, they automatically save the $10 million. They don't eat any dead money or anything like that.
You know what the great thing about the NFL is that every year, all the assets are the same. Every team has the same amount of draft picks at some point, assuming they didn't trade them away, comp picks formula. They have the same amount of cap. It's all about how your GM and your front office use your assets. The Rams, they traded all their assets away. They pushed in for a Super Bowl. They won. Then they sucked for a year or two. Now they're on their way back. When
Yeah.
your GM goes out and signs an edge rusher and Von Miller to a massive contract, and then he blows his ACL out, and then he comes back and he's old, you
Yeah.
mismanaged your assets. It's a fact of the matter. If I invested all my money in Google and you invested all your money in a weed company, and now I'm rich and you got nothing but a couple blunts laying around the house, you mismanage your assets. It just is
Yeah.
what it is. And so to place all this blame on Josh Allen when instead of going out there and getting a legit running back or a legit player that can help, they went and got somebody they thought they were going to help that was going to help them. It didn't. Your star
Yeah.
corner blew out his Achilles.
Yep.
It just is what it is. Mismanagement of assets, and that's why they're not. And we're not even talking about the Super Bowl here. We're talking about the AFC Championship game. They haven't even made
Yep.
it that far. So to me, they're a big time pretender right now until they take it the next step. I mean, the Bills, sorry, are the Cowboys of the AFC at this point. All the talent in
Hmm.
the world, we talk about them every year like they're going to do something special. But when push comes to shove, we know where they're going to be at when the Super Bowl rolls around, and that's Cancun.
Yeah. I mean, we have to take a different look at the team if they do, to save this money, they don't sign Gabe Davis, which I don't think you really should sign Gabe Davis. I don't care what the stats say. I don't care what the yards say. You can't go you can't go three receptions for 30 yards 3 games in a row and then you blow up for 150. Doesn't make you, like, just because the averages average out between the 4 games doesn't mean that you're consistent, and doesn't mean that you should be re-signed. I would rather have a guy who's getting like 60, 70 yards a game and a little bit more consistent than the guy who blows up every 4th game for 100 yards and be like, oh wow, Gabe Davis, he's showing up. We've seen it time and time again. I'm not that impressed. So if you let Gabe Davis walk, you trade Stephon Diggs. I don't know what your return is for Stephon. It has to be relatively high because of the level of player that he is. I don't know. I don't think you're doing any wide receiver swaps or sign-in swaps or anything like that. I mean, I just don't think you are. But so I don't know where you go with offensive weapons past that, because James Cook came on real well at the end of the season. He's decent. He's not a workhorse. There's very few workhorse running backs in the league anyways. But there's not a lot of weapons there. You have Dalton Kincaid, and then you have, if you're trading Stephon, you're letting go Gabe Davis. Well, you have Khalil Shakir as your one at that point. Where are
It's
you at
really
on your
not that
offensive side?
impressive. It's really not that impressive. Gabe Davis is living off of that playoff game from a couple of years ago, I think,
Oh yeah,
in
I think
terms
so
of what
too.
people think of him because he shined on the big stage, obviously, in a
Yeah,
loss. Trading Stephon Diggs, let's say you get a first round pick, which I don't think you do. You probably get a second or
yeah, I
maybe
think so.
2/3 or something. But you get a first round pick, you're going to use that pick to try to replace Stephon Diggs. I hate that strategy. So
Yeah, for
it's just
sure.
one of those things where even going into the game, I'm not so sure. And we were talking about their head coach getting fired, and they were like 6-6 or whatever. They were lackluster
Yeah,
halfway through the season anyway, and
for
they
sure.
fired their OC. They're talking about random stat of the day. I think that, do you know that no team has the same offensive coordinator? Like every single position has changed over since 2021.
Damn, really?
Yeah, the offensive coordinator is the most competitive position in the NFL right now. Um, and you got to try to find somebody that works. Try to find somebody that's on one of these. This is what I would do. I would go to Mike McDaniels, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, these offenses that are rocking the league right now, and find somebody on their staff that's ready to call plays. And
Yeah,
you know, there's got to be somebody on the Ram staff that's ready to go. There's got to be a Brian Greasy on the 49ers QB coach that's ready to go. Somebody on Andy Reid's staff. You find one of these guys and try to take it to the next level. And sometimes I watch these offenses and I just wonder, like, where is the mystique here? Like, a lot of
hmm.
times it's like, okay, Stefan's going deep, Gabe's going deep, and if they don't come wide open, Josh Allen's going to run. It's just, I think Josh is a baller. I know some people disagree with me, but they need to find the guy more weapons, and they need to find an offense that's more unpredictable, because right now what we see every year, it's the same old, same old. Josh Allen tries to be Superman, and
Yeah,
unfortunately he comes up short.
yeah. No, I agree. Let's move off of this one. Let's shift. Well, actually, let's stay in the AFC. We're going to talk about the other divisional loser here, the Houston Texans, and their offseason outlook. They should be proud. end of the day, they're not supposed to be playing the Ravens in the divisional this year. They're supposed to be the Patriots, right? They're supposed to be like fourth, pick, fifth pick, sixth pick. They're supposed to be somewhere around that. They're not supposed to be in that divisional game playing. And then on top of that, with being there, you have 8 draft picks this upcoming draft, including you did trade your draft pick away, but it's a good thing you have a first round pick, the 23rd pick in the draft from the Cleveland trade in Deshaun Watson. So you still have a first round draft pick on top of that. 5 of those first 8 draft picks are within the first 4 rounds. So even though you made it and you got all those picks for supposed to be retooling and rebuilding, all of a sudden you're in the divisional. You come out of the divisional feeling really damn good that you're even there, that you played the game as bad as the game really was, because you take 7 points away because of a random, a punt return for a touchdown. You take that away and really nothing else happened. Regardless of what happened in the game, you're proud to even be there. Again, 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, $57.8 million in cap space. Not really a whole lot of free agents. Sheldon Rankins, Dalton Schultz, Steven Nelson, Kaimi Fairbairn, Cameron Johnston. So they have the kicker and their punter up for contract, and then Denzel Perryman there as well. So those are like their biggest starters who are going to be free agents. If Dalton Schultz doesn't want to take a smaller deal, you can move off of them. I feel like when it comes to tight ends, you have like the top cream of the crop tight ends, and then it's everybody else kind of mixed in between, and how you use them determines how important they are. So if he doesn't want to take a deal that fits what he should make, move off of him and go get someone else. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So when you look at this team and how impressive it is that they were even there, it's pretty damn good, man. If you're the Houston Texans GM, you got to be looking at this and smiling and be like, "Damn, I'm pretty damn good for what I did." I got the 2nd pick and the 3rd pick in the draft this past season, both of them pretty damn good in this season as rookies, and I still got all this comp coming up. I'm good. That's what I would be saying.
You know who's a really good tight end?
Who's that?
That good-looking guy in Pittsburgh. Who is he?
Pat Fryermuth.
Yeah, I like that guy. Anyways, Houston, shout out to the commenter on TikTok that said I looked like the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end.
Yeah, that was funny.
The Houston Texans, man, I honestly don't have much to say about them. They get their flowers. I'm fading a little bit next year. Don't think they have the success that they had this year. It's hard when the hunters become the hunted, and people are going to be more prepared for them. But here's what I know. They got a hell of a quarterback. They got a hell of a coach. They got picks. And now all of a sudden, Houston, that is Texas. People love Texas. That's a destination. So let's see how they retool this offseason. They got a long way to go. But, they get a little better next year, and then you start looking at year 3, year 4 on that rookie contract. You load up and you make a run. So, let's see what they do in the offseason, add some pieces, and see. Realistically, they need to retool that defense, because you saw it in the second half of the game. They were just outclassed, which is okay. They didn't belong there. They weren't supposed to be there. What they did was amazing. So
absolutely,
we need to build up that defense a lot and come back next year even better and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think CJ Stroud's going to have a really hard time beating these sophomore slump allegations.
Hopefully they don't come out on the cover of Madden.
Right. I mean, you come out and you have as good as a season as you did. I mean, you look like a top. I mean, whatever, screw the rankings. You're a quarterback that very few teams would take their quarterback over you with contract involved right now. So that's what you've turned into in your rookie year. You're a quarterback that very few teams would take their own over yourself. It's going to be hard to kind of back that one up after your rookie year. If he doesn't repeat what he did, he's going to immediately be like, "Oh, it's a sophomore slump. It was a fluke year." And he's going to have to listen to all the stupid commenters before the season starts for year 3. And I think he'll be fine. He clearly showed enough to be fine.
Expectations are a hell of a thing, man, because there's teams out there, the Cowboys and the Bills, where they feel like shit today. They feel like they
Absolutely.
failed. And then you have
Yeah.
teams that went home, the Cleveland Browns. You have these teams, the
The
Houston
Bucks,
Texans.
the Texans.
How good do the Packers feel about their team right now? They're out there. The
Yep.
Packers are throwing a parade in Green Bay, and
Yeah.
that's this upcoming week. There's two teams that the expectations are super huge for, and are going to be super upset. Whoever loses that AFC game, and the Lions, they won two playoff games. Like, they're just happy to be there.
Yep.
If the 49ers aren't in the Super Bowl, that's a massive disappointment and a freaking huge letdown. And if the Baltimore Ravens or the Chiefs aren't in the Super Bowl, that's a massive disappointment and a huge letdown. So expectations are a hell of a thing, but that's why we love the NFL, right? Because of the parity every year.
Yeah.
Next year we could be talking about the Cardinals and the NFC Championship game, or I almost said the Panthers, but I want to make sure I stay a little realistic. Panthers aren't going anywhere; they suck.
Oh yeah, no, big time. And we'll talk about the Panthers and expectations and a lot of stuff when we talk about our ranking our remaining head coaching openings. Because I bet you $10 that we're probably
Shout
going to
out to
have
the
the same.
Chargers.
Yep. Shout out to the Chargers. We'll talk about that one later. But a team that is just happy to be there. Let's talk about them. Tampa Bay Bucks. They lost as well. When Tom Brady announces his retirement this last offseason, and actually stuck with it, right? I think that's the big thing. Actually sticks with it. It was kind of assumed that probably the Bucks would not be very good. They would fall apart. They would be a 4 or 5 win team. I think that was kind of roughly the projection, was about 5 win team. But they weren't bad. They finished with a better record than they had in 2022. They won a third straight NFC South title, which the division sucks. So how much stock do you really put into that? Kind of iffy there. They dominated the Eagles in the wild card round, and Baker resurrected himself. I mean, 4,044 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 94.6 passer rating throughout the year. They're not supposed to be there. So again, it's another team that should be proud of just where they are. Now, a little bit different reality when it comes to what the offseason looks like. They have a bunch of really big free agents. They do have more cap space. But the difference between a team like the Texans and a team like the Bucks, one has their quarterback under contract and is a rookie, and the other one does not. And if he gets paid by the Bucks, he's going to get paid. And real
Yeah,
quick about Baker, dude, I think that everyone was kind of like, hey, like the Lions, everyone kind of wants to see them succeed and do well. After this whole thing of Lions fans, CJ Gardner-Johnson, all this stuff, just talking trash about Baker, it's like, bro, nobody got exposed. He still had 350 yards and what, 3 touchdowns? Like 3 touchdowns, bro. Like, no one got exposed. Like, and then the Lions fans backing that up on top of that. I've seen in comment sections, and I'm over it, bro. I don't care. I don't care about the Lions. I don't care about Dan Campbell. I don't care about the fans. I don't care about the legacy.
it's a
Throw it all away, bro.
super weird discourse that we do. It's the same thing this week. All the stuff, I haven't even been paying attention to all the stuff about Brock. The kid is what he is. Baker is what he is. Now, listen, going back to my last point, expectations are a hell of a thing. Everything was great this year because Baker wasn't making no money. If you want to
Yep.
give him 3 years, $100 million next year and run it back with no Mike Evans, be my guest. But the expectations change when you're making $35 million a year. So
Yeah.
the tiniest of red flags on re-signing Baker Mayfield over there.
Yeah.
If I was Baker, I'd be looking to go get a contract elsewhere because I'm not
Yeah.
sure they're going to be set up to move forward with him and be successful. They barely won their division. The Saints probably should have won the division. It is what it is. You do what you can, and you win a playoff game. So anytime any owner in the NFL outside of maybe 3 or 4 would tell you that hosting a home playoff game every season is a winning season for them. Now, there's a couple
Yeah.
out there that have higher expectations than that, but when you're the Bucks, you already won a Super Bowl. You get to host a playoff game this year. That's just extra money in the pocket, and they're happy as
Absolutely.
hell for that. So now, if they want to run it back at 3 years, 100, or 4 years, 130 to Baker, and more power to you. I wouldn't do it, but he's going to go somewhere.
Yeah, and if you if you're a team that is looking to stay successful, not be successful, like start being successful now. I don't think Baker's the best choice for you. Or excuse me, you want to stay successful. I think that's probably the best choice for you. And I think a great candidate and a great landing spot for Baker in terms of weapons, and you're already going to a more, well, I guess, a not losing culture. It's not a winning culture, but it's not losing, right? Is the Pittsburgh Steelers are
That's
probably
what
going
I
to
was
take a
thinking.
long, hard
Yep.
look at that at Mayfield and see what they have in him and see what he wants. Right, what he wants is going to be huge this offseason. So
Especially
the
with that handsome tight end they got. That they got weapons all over the place.
Other free agents, they got Levante David, they got Mike Evans, obviously Baker, Chase McLaughlin, Ryan Neal, Aaron Stinney, Antoine Winfield Jr. So they got, again, all starters. Those are all starters right there. And a couple of them are going to be big time. Mike Evans, Baker, Antoine Winfield Jr. are going to garner the most amount of money and attention, especially Antoine. He's going to reset the market. So unless you let him walk away from you, he's going to do it somewhere else. But that's going to be a lot of money tied up with just that man right there. They do have $48.7 million in cap space, and cutting a guy like Russell Gage would save them $10 million in a post June 1st cut. So you might as well, you can let him go and save that $10 million. So you're around 58.7 is what you're at for cap space. So it can get them a good distance. Now, I think they might have to choose between Baker, Mike, and Antoine. They can only keep two type thing. Depends on how much money Mike Evans wants and how much money Antoine wants. But I think you're going to have to make a decision between two out of three of those guys there to keep that core. So they do have some decisions to make, I think, more than most teams, especially with how well they did this past season. Expectations are going to be a little bit higher. Like you said, Baker could potentially walk. Mike Evans is a good walk candidate. I mean, Antoine, I think, is probably a good stay candidate. I think he might get paid by the Buccaneers. I think those other two guys are they're probably going to be gone. I don't think they're going to sign.